Hey guys, yeah, thanks for watching. I said I'm going to talk about my first full-length piano composition today, Awakening, and talk about some of the background story of the piece, why I wrote it, and how it came to be written. And yeah, it was written in 2009. For those of my friends that know me, kind of say I had chronic fatigue syndrome because I'm, pretty well these days, really very well these days. Still have to pace myself at times, um, but I can do loads really, and very lucky to do that. So yeah, so for those that don't know, chronic fatigue syndrome, also known as ME, um, yeah, can have a devastating effect on people's lives. I'll try to share something after from a young man in America who's, say, young man, he's in his 30s, it's still young, isn't it? I think his father's a top scientist, and his, yeah, he was, just a healthy living young man, and then he got struck down by this virus, and he's been so poorly, and yeah, I'll try to find out his name because his father's mission before his father dies is to try to find the cure and to help his son get better. His son's severely affected, really bad with it. He's been ill for a long time. I think he's showing some signs of light at the end of the tunnel, but yeah, and we've got friends as well that are really poorly. People that aren't able to work, that are pretty much housebound. One is in a nursing home, I think, because she's too ill to be at home. So yeah, it can be a devastating condition. It's very misunderstood. So back to 2009. Yeah, I mean, at one point Joe and I had to have carers in just so we could live independently. So it feels a long time ago now, but yeah, it was tough, really tough. The amount of times I'd got been stuck in bed and my body screaming and just not being able to control the symptoms and yeah, and people can say, oh, is he depressed, is he this, and I wasn't depressed. I mean, it's when I got energy I always wanted to do things, and if someone's depressed they don't want to do anything, even if they've got, though they don't tend to have energy anyway, but and depression's a really serious condition as well in itself and can be very misunderstood, but for me, I've always wanted to be, whenever I had energy, I always wanted to do things, and I sort of underestimated how little charge there was in my battery at the time because I'd feel good, and then all of a sudden it could just go bam, and I could end up in bed or in and around bed, not able to do anything much of myself at all for a period of weeks. And not really, it was only when I got diagnosed when I was 23, but I'd probably had it from quite a few years before with all the swollen glands I used to get, and these episodes where I feel like I got flu, and I'd be practicing my music and then all of a sudden I couldn't do anything for 2 or 3 weeks. I just end up stuck in bed and not able to build any momentum or have any sort of kind of life really. It's pretty scary when you don't know what's going on and what's wrong, because you think if the doctors missed something, why am I ended up in bed? They just couldn't explain it. They said repeated viruses, and yeah, okay, I had a lot of stress at home and things, but I think if I when I felt well, the stress wasn't really a problem. I was able to go out and have some fun and live life and have ambitions and goals. And um, anyway, cut to the chase. I remember being really poorly, and I'd been in a what was they used to call them relapses, or boom and bust relapses. Do too much and end up being stuck in bed for ages, and it wasn't pleasant being stuck in bed. I can assure you, it was sometimes I felt so ill I just wanted to die. And my body was just screaming with pain and all sorts of symptoms, and like massive overstimulation and light sensitivity, and I had to be in a dark room some of the time. And if you read about chronic fatigue syndrome, these symptoms aren't unusual. Everybody experiences it differently, but yeah, it can be really hard. I know of people that have taken their own life with it, which is very sad. More is understood about it these days. Interestingly, when I went to an ME clinic in Carnarvon in my 20s, and there was a specialist there, and she was also a psychologist, and she said to me that I think I was 25, and I told her my background and sort of difficulties I'd had in my home life and school life and different things. and she said you're going to have a renaissance in your 40s. It's going to take you a long time to get better, but you will get better gradually, and you have a renaissance in your 40s, and you'll live all the sort of teenage years that you missed out on, and you'll have loads of fun, and you'll feel really young and have a lot of energy. So he was like, wow, how did you know that? She's obviously got a lot of experience to recognise that in me. And I went to an ME clinic in Leeds, which is they're absolutely brilliant, and yeah, they told me I was giving out way too much all the time, and I needed to conserve energy for myself and put more into me rather than trying to help others so much. Yeah, so I mean, my parents, as much as I love them, yeah, they needed a lot of emotional support, so that was could be quite exhausting at times. But when you're in that situation, you don't really realise that there's anything different. So it just becomes sort of normal, even though to an outsider it wouldn't have been normal. So yeah, but anyway, this so I had my Yamaha Clavinova then upstairs. I didn't have my acoustic piano then. I did get that in 2009 actually, but um, and yeah, that was on the top floor. And I remember that I'd had a relapse. I'd been in bed for a few weeks. I felt terrible, and I was just really longing to play piano. If I could just play it for like 5 minutes or something. Just felt really drawn to play piano. And I remember crawling up the stairs, and I thought, oh, I only got the energy to play for a few minutes. And I turned on the piano, and if you're going through a lot of intense, really difficult experiences with health, you know, it can have very deep impact on the psyche. And you know, I think I can't remember. I read something the other day saying, you know, the best way to become a spiritual person, more compassionate, is to have been through suffering and come out the other side. So it's like Kahil Gibran, author of the Prophets, says the deeper sorrow carves into us, the more joy we can contain. So I can definitely identify with that. And yeah, I think those who know me would, I think I'd say I'm a joyful person. So yeah, it's nice thing to be. But yeah, it hasn't just happened automatically. I've been through a lot to be where I am today. Um, and yeah, although looking back, would I have changed anything? No, because I am who I am here today, and I wouldn't be the person I am without having been through those experiences. Although I wouldn't choose to have had them if I lived my time again. Perhaps I'd have enjoyed being, you know, a 26-year-old at 26 rather than feeling 26 now at 46. But it's all good. It's all perfect. And anyway, so I'd crawled up the stairs and I turned on my Clavinova and I knew I had hardly got any energy to do anything. And I pressed the record button. I don't know why. I just pressed the record button and I just felt like it's playing something. And I didn't have the energy to even put music in front of me or try to read anything. I just wanted to express something inside. And I sat down and I played. And it was only when I came back to when I wanted to record something else a few months later, I'd found that this piece of music that I'd recorded that day had been saved on there, and I listened back and I thought, wow, this is really beautiful. I couldn't believe it was me, but I knew it was because I could recognize the chord progressions, and you know, it was 100% me playing it. Um, but when I listened back, I thought, wow, you know, did I do that? And I remember how poorly I felt on the day, and just to come up and just to press on the piano, and then sit down and just play this straight away spontaneously, turn it off, go downstairs and go back to bed. And I'd saved it, and then I've called it Reflections. It actually reminds me of like sort of dropping a stone in the water or something, and the pools of I'm not sure what they're even called, but you know what I'm talking about, the ripples in the water, that the circles that grow bigger. Hey, the ever expanding circles of positivity. But I'm going to share this piece with you now, because a few months later this led to me writing Awakening, and then I'll talk a little bit about that as well. So I hope I've got enough space on my phone to record all this. In fact, I should have done it on my laptop. But this is Awakening. This is Reflections. This is you know, just spontaneous improvisation that I did. I didn't know I was going to play anything or write anything. I just pressed record, and this came out. I'll turn up a bit. Nice chord change. I'm impressed. So yeah, I hope you can hear that. I will share it later as an actual track on YouTube. So yeah, so listen to that back, and even listen to it now. It's the first time I've listened to it in years, actually. But yeah, it's backed up on the computer and etc. So yeah, listen, thinking back to how old would I have been? It's 14 years ago. So 32. Wow, yeah, my 32-year-old self writing that. So, well, so writing it, just sitting down and playing it, and I remember the pain I was in the day as well. On the day, my life's very different now to how it was then, but still living in the same place, and I'm still me. Um, so yeah, it's special for me to listen to that. Really, really special and poignant, and yeah. So anyway, so listening to it back, I remember a guy, they recommended some CBT for me, and I saw a guy called Mike Davison, and he came to the house. I wasn't really well enough to be going out seeing anyone on a regular basis, and it's just CBT just to help with the condition and talking about pacing and different things as well. And yeah, I couldn't really work with what was being suggested because it was living the same living in such a rigid and strict routine, and like I would have been allowed to walk, sort of 10 yards one day for a week, and then 20 yards the next week, and the graded exercise, which has been proven now not to be effective for a lot of people, and a lot of people have been pushed to do it and made much more poorly. And it was like, how can you keep each day the same? So I had responsibilities, even though I was unwell. I had sort of emotional. It felt like I had emotional responsibilities towards my parents, and if my mum wanted to speak to me or needed to speak to me, and I couldn't say, oh, I'm in my 1 hour rest period now or 2 hour rest period or whatever. It just wasn't practical, and I had responsibilities at home as well, and so I just had to live my life in the way I could, and I could walk more than 10 yards some days anyway. So I didn't want to restrict myself every day to walk 10 yards and then 20 yards. This didn't seem like the right way to do it. The guy was well meaning, and I'm pleased that I didn't follow that path. It wouldn't have been possible for me to do it anyway. It wasn't the path to my wellness. But I remember playing him the piece, and he said, "Get yourself well." He said, "That's really beautiful." And so I was encouraged to. I thought I'll try to write something. I thought, well, if I can just improvise something like that, surely I can try to write a piece. And I'd written snippets of things before when I was a teenager, and written some nice sort of short 1 page things, but never a sort of full length 3, 4, 5 minute piece. So I wrote. I remember writing this piece. I was feeling particularly fragile, I think, and I called it. I don't know if I called it Awakening at the time or afterwards, but yeah. So if you check it out on my YouTube channel, listen to Awakening. The full piece is on there, but it just as previews 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I will put it, all together on my album. But yeah, for me, I'd obviously been thinking that I was always hopeful. I always felt that I'd get better. Always, even though I'd been poorly for a long time, I always had the hope that I would get better, and I couldn't always see it, but I always hoped that it'd be there. I always felt I had it inside me to be well, and loads of setbacks, so many setbacks, gosh, and it makes one resilient, I suppose, to have experienced a lot of setbacks. People see me now and they might think, oh, yeah, I wasn't well, blah blah blah. And they think, yeah, but people don't realize how much people can go through and people can suffer. And I know loads of people suffer in life. There is suffering in life. It's undeniable that no person on the planet will have experienced suffering, whether it be through grief or illness or pain, or in some way it's a part of being human. We have to accept sometimes, and it's like the Buddhist philosophy on my wall. Every situation in life is temporary, so when life is good, make sure you enjoy it and receive it fully. And when life's not so good, remember it will not last forever and better days are on the way. It's a nice perspective to think about. And even if people who have a terminal illness, they might question that and say, well, better days aren't on the way for me. But if they're terminally ill, but who knows what, with life after death and things. And I'm not going to get into philosophy and religion and go too deep here. It's just, but yeah, I mean, we don't, none of us have all the answers, do we? And but yeah, it's better to try to live life to the fullest and in a joyful way as much as we can. And I remember Ram Dass, the great spiritual teacher, said once to a lady who had the terminal illness, he said, he said, the lady was saying that she'd only got a month or something to live, and he said, well, what about trying to live fully in that month? And at first she was about to be offended, and then she saw the compassion in his eyes, and she actually heard what he said, and she did actually manage to release a lot of her burdens and live more peacefully in that month, and I think she lived in many years. So Awakening, I wrote it, I remember the start of it as feeling fragile. Part of the analogy, part of the thing of it is about being a flower and about being a delicate flower, and I didn't really like that analogy for me as a man, but I'm a new age guy, and I'm on new age or 21st century guy, so I can identify with things as well. I have I'm in touch with the sort of yin and yang of my personality. I identify totally as male. What are the pronouns these days? They, she, her, him. Identify completely as him. I see myself as 100% male and very comfortable in my body as with who I am. Have respect for everybody who's got their own, how can I say, their own, their own identity. Yeah, it's all cool. And we shouldn't judge other people, in my opinion. Live and let live, and as long as people are causing no harm to anyone else, why should we interfere with how they choose to live their lives? and we can't really judge what people have been through in their background and different things. So it's best just to be accepting, I think, if as long as people are not causing any harm to other people with their behaviour, let them live their life. And yeah, so imagine it being like a delicate flower, and then sort of growing and growing, and then just gaining in confidence and being a bit, oh, am I there? Can I grow a bit more? I'm not sure. Do I have to stay here? And then growing a bit more and growing a bit more. And then if you listen to the fourth preview, that's the real sort of blooming of the flower. The flower, or you can think of it as a tree as well. I love trees. I give trees hugs sometimes. And so beautiful, just from a little acorn, or as that, a whole oak tree can grow. Isn't that incredible? The power in that acorn. It's like, wow. And trees are really, really beautiful. They're so strong, and their roots go deep into the ground. There's a yoga pose called the tree. So I've got a beautiful picture in our room. I'll probably share it later. I think I've shared it before, called the tree, a koiden. And it's like full of energy, the picture, with purple energy and the sunlight in it as well. It's a beautiful picture. It really inspired me. Joe got it me. I chose it for my birthday many years ago, and Joe got it for me. I'm from a gallery in Betsacoid. It's very beautiful. And yeah, so that's the sort of the idea behind the piece is about, can be somebody growing, and there's an awakening there. And whilst perhaps I had the awakening, I had to sort of grow into it. So the awakening is, I had many moments and sort of epiphanies. I think, yeah, I'm getting better now. This is it. Wow, I've got energy. I can go and live. And then step back. And did I learn from them? Yeah, I think I did learn from them each time, because I've obviously learned, because I've kept growing it in my life. And yeah, each one taught me different things. And also, if I look at my life as well, if I hadn't been where I was at certain times in certain places, I wouldn't have met the people that some of the amazing people that are in my life now. So including my wife. So I met my wife through an association of young people with ME, and yeah, certain things had to happen for me to meet her. I had to go if I hadn't gone to Nottingham with my dad, I'd have never gone into the bookstore and found this book, Can God Help ME, that I bought, and then it had an address in the back, Young Association of Young People with ME. If I hadn't met certain people, I probably wouldn't have gotten on the internet as soon as I did. Then got in touch with my wife. If she hadn't had the poetry column in that magazine, I wouldn't have seen her picture and thought, oh, she's beautiful, and got in touch with her, and yeah, and developed this friendship, which blossomed into romance and engagement, and then married 20 years this year. And it's happened like that a lot in life as well, that things sometimes, and I'd say this is something for everyone. There's a story in it was actually in a religious book called The Word for Today, but it was pretty cool. I think it was in that, or was it in something else? But it was about two boys. One was an optimist and one was a pessimist, and it was a fable. It was a story, but one was always moaning at everything that his parents were giving him. Nothing was ever right. Nothing was good enough, and he was given exactly the same thing as the optimist boy, and he was always really grateful and appreciated everything that he had. And one day for their birthday, they were in separate rooms, and they had a huge parcel in their birthday. For their birthday, and they had in the parcel, they opened it up, and the miserable boy opened it up, and it was he opened it up and he was moaning. He said, "Oh God, look, it's a pile of soil and rubbish, manure." He said, "Oh, my parents are just so useless. What am I going to do with this? That's what they think of me. They just give me a mound of earth." And he was really moaning, and I can't believe my life's so crap, and blah 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 blah. And then his brother, who's the optimist, opened it up, and he said, "You can't fool me." He said, "With this much manure, I know I'm going to get a horse." So, and that's kind of the way to, if we can. I know it's really tough if people are going through a lot of crap, and there's a lot of things going on in the world at the moment. But if we can just hold on to hope and faith and love, and just a small difference, even a smile to someone can make a difference in their day, can change the way that the chemistry in their brain or anything. It's amazing. I've read some different books about this from great spiritual teachers and really intelligent people. Duncan McCall's was an amazing guy. I learned a lot from him. Neil Donald Walsh as well. One of his books I really, really like. A couple of his books actually. And I'm getting the book by Eckhart Tolle that changed Steve Vai's life when he read it when he was younger. It's by U.S. Anderson. But Eckhart Tolle has released it basically with a foreword, and it's been published in April. It's called the Magic of Your Mind, I think it's called. And Steve Vai said it changed his life when he was younger. Vai was actually suicidal, and this book came into his path, and he realised that he had the power in his mind to try to change his thinking. And he's not trying to say that depression's not a serious illness, and that people should get help if and talk about it. But for him, that was what made the biggest difference. I'm sure he had good people around him as well, and he credits meditation for making the biggest change in his life as well. So awakening, that fourth part is where the strength comes, and it can take time for strength to come, and to build up strength or to reach a goal. And awakening can be thought of in many ways. What's your awakening? Are you working towards a goal and you're waiting for it to be realized and fulfilled, working towards a dream? Is there a path in your life? I've got friends who've had children recently, and I'm sure that's an awakening for them as well. It's like, wow, and a whole new human being is created and changes the whole perspective in their world. So thanks for listening, and please do have a listen to Awakening. I'll put reflections up now as well, and just remember that we're all capable of great things in this life. We're all, if you want to look at it from a really deep spiritual level, we're all one. We're all human beings. We're all godding, or however you want to see it. I'm very open and sort of universalist, and I could call myself universalist, agnostic, all different things. I don't follow any one particular religion. Probably closest to Christianity and then Buddhism. But isn't love the answer, really? Love can change the world in a moment, but what do I know? That's the Ed Sheeran song. So so thanks for listening to me. I'll try to share the link if I can find the guy with who's really severely affected with ME as well. And remember, we're all doing our best to try to live our life the best that we can. And Kiko Loureiro said the most important words were confidence and patience, I think. That's what he said. And he said we can all achieve success. It's more to do with mentality than talent, really. So obviously if you're talented, it helps. But I think everybody's got their own talents as well. And if you look at musicians out there, because music's what I know best, if you look at some of the guys who've got to the top with number one hits, some of them are just based on 2 or 3 chords. But, that can be a talent in itself, being able to make great music with just some simple chords. Alicia Keys was talking about the song Falling in a masterclass, and just I can't remember was it E minor and B minor. I don't know the song really well, but she said she was analysing it herself, and she was going, wow, it's a really interesting process, and because she'd not really taken the time to analyse her songs, and then she was invited to do so with a masterclass. I think it was E minor and B minor 7. Yeah, and the whole song is based on that. Cool. I have to resolve it. Major. Okay, so that's gonna conclude there. But thank you for listening, and hope you took something positive from this. And always keep hopeful, please, if you can. It's really important to keep hope, and remember, today is just one day. There's always tomorrow. There's always a new beginning. But try to live right here, right now, as well, and make the best of today and where you're at in this moment. And always, there can be brighter days ahead, but always try to appreciate what you have right now. My meditation teacher, who's on my wall, Emily Stella Fletcher, she says about, can we see her there? Got her there with Esther and Rose and Noriko. There she is, that's Emily. And she says about, always water the flowers, and don't water the weeds. It's kind of like Steve Vai saying, focus on your strengths. Appreciate what you've got, appreciate all the good in your life, keep appreciating all the good in your life. And what we focus on, we get more of as well. So if we're focusing on what's wrong in our lives, we're probably going to conditional bias. We actually see more of it. If we're focusing on the good in our lives, we're training our brain to see more of that as well. Neil Donald Walsh, in his book, said that the mind is like a big Xerox machine, he called it, I think, in his conversation with God. And that, yeah, basically what we put in, we get out. And it can take a long time for me to learn that. I kind of knew it, but to actually live it and to actually make sense of what was going on in my life, and there was a lot going on as well, is, it's hard sometimes to actually realize why this is happening and what to do about it. And yeah, and sort of religion for me wasn't really that helpful because I couldn't really identify with the God in the Bible. So again, I think it's what we've been brought up with, and we come to our own conclusions on our own path. But I do respect religions as well. Okay, I need to conclude now because my friend Steph's going to laugh if you take the time to watch this. So yes, I've said I'm going about 5 times. So I need to meditate. So all good. But again, thanks for watching. And yeah, remember to love yourself, the greatest love of all. So in a healthy, beautiful way. Love yourself, love your friends, love your family. And yeah, try to enjoy life as much as you can. Be true to yourself, have faith in yourself, belief, and keep doing the right things and doing things in the right way, and get up, stand up, as Bob Marley says. Yeah, hopefully be able to live a really happy, fulfilling life. So cheers.